If you're not a fan of early sunsets, this week is certainly not going to be your cup of tea. We actually have the earliest sunsets of the year across the mid-state expected this week, with sunset times around 4:30 p.m. So it is going to be dark very early. After we get through this week, the good news here is we slowly start to gain time again, at least a few fractions of a second a day, and eventually we'll be gaining minutes of day light until we get up to next spring, and that's when we have daylight saving time beginning. So for the next week or so, once again, those sunsets around 4:30 p.m. You're going to notice it getting dark very, very early, and here's how things shake out over the next several months. So as we go into January, we'll say January the 4th, so exactly a month from today, sunsets will be around 4:45 p.m., so still very early. As I said, we're only gaining a few seconds of daylight between now and then every day, and then eventually once we get past January into February, we'll start gaining a few minutes of daylight. So here we go into February. You'll notice the sun will start to set after 5:15, so around 5:16 p.m. for February the 4th. That's a pretty significant gain of time there. We'll say about 45 minutes between what we see our sunset as today versus February 4th. And then as we go into March, that sunset time will be around 5:45 p.m. for March the 4th. Now, after we get past that, keep in mind daylight saving time begins as we go into March the 10th. That's when you'll set your clock forward an hour. We'll actually lose an hour of sleep that night, but we'll also see sunsets after 6 p.m. And from there, we start to gain light a little quicker. So you'll notice the days get longer and longer. And then, of course, once we're in the summertime, that's when we get some of our longest days of the year. So it's really one of those things that we just have to go through. We go through it every year. But yes, these earlier sunset times probably have you feeling tired more than usual. For me personally, when I get home from work, I feel like I need a nap if I'm going to be productive at all during the evening. So it does throw off your circadian rhythm. Once again, this is the last week before we slowly start to gain that time back. So if you are someone who's not a fan of the earlier sunsets, just hang in there a little while longer. Once again, after we get past this week, we'll slowly start to gain the time back. And of course, leading up to the spring, that's when we'll have some longer days with sunsets after 6 p.m.